Howdy, everybody. Today is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023, and the time is 6 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We do have a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We are convening into work session in the first floor conference room, and the public is invited to join us. Thank you very much.
They didn't like connection settings and almost like start over again, and then it like they worked it out. Like there's a I don't know how to do that.
Just so you know, too, there was like Gabby like 2 weeks ago, like did this whole like maybe I shouldn't go, but kind of had a date.
No, it's okay. I've already got
I
it
don't
here
want to be
anyway.
there. And then I was like, I need you to be able to say, don't come. Like tell her, hey, are you okay with this trip? And then McKenna was like, no,
For everything else.
All right, everybody ready?
And I was like, Gabby,
Time is 6:01 p.m. We're here for the work session. We only have two items, but before we get started, just in case, I sent out a calendar invite by mistake today. I don't know who got it. I tried to retract it.
I did, I got it.
It was.
But I got the retraction.
I got it.
Just you ignored it. It was a.
Yeah, where are we going?
Yeah, I've already saved it.
Y'all are going to be there by yourself.
You're not inviting me.
So sorry about that.
It was like a North Texas something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna have the ERCOT chairman in January, and I typed in North Dallas Chamber, and a previous meeting popped up, and that's what got sent out, so I didn't know it did.
Or he just doesn't want us to come.
Yeah, that's this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, item A, discussion regarding agenda items. We've got three proclamations tonight. We've got a proclamation for Reverend Palmer for National Breast Cancer Awareness and Fire Prevention Month. Does anybody have a desire to say anything on any of those? Kevin?
Just so I understand the procedure, do you want us to like let you know if you want us to say something ahead of time?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to clarify that.
That way I won't turn around.
That's a great idea. Okay.
Well, I did at one time, and everybody had this look on their face, and it was really uncomfortable.
We all left him hanging.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll be happy to let you, if you want to say, hey, that's fine, but just, I need to know whether to turn around and look for someone to raise their hand. So I'm not seeing anybody. So I'll proceed forward. All right. Item B, an overview of code compliance processes.
Yes, Mayor. Just given some of the conversations we've had in the past, Louis is going to come forward and talk to you about just what the processes are and some of the things that we're having to deal with out in the streets of Coppell.
Like RVs parked on the street.
And then get moved and come back with a
boat and trailer.
A boat and trailer.
It's like a progressive ad.
I don't know what.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I would like to give you a quick glance at our code compliance process and approach and answer any question you might have. The Code Compliance Division proactively investigates, tracks, and coordinates zoning and code cases in the City of Coppell. Our mission is to enhance the look and safety and health of our community. We have a very compassionate approach to code compliance in the City of Coppell. We focus on educating and engaging with our residents to achieve voluntary compliance, to create lasting relationship with our residents and business community. We focus on compliance, not enforcement. And we provide our officers with discretion to make decisions to better serve our residents. For example, in cases where homeowners lack funds to address immediate repair, code compliance teams aims to work with them, allow them time for progress, and connect them with volunteer groups if possible. However, it's important to mention that in the last 10 years, we have faced some challenges. The landscape has changed drastically, and we are seeing few things that we haven't seen before. For example, we've seen increasing number of rental properties in the city of Coppell. Our city is getting a little bit older. We have a lot of aging properties, and we have resistance to voluntary compliance. At the same time, our code officers still focus on building relationship with our community, with business and residents as well. The city of Coppell has 3 code officers, and the 3 code officers are responsible for 4 programs. The first one is the property maintenance standards. It's what you see when you drive the neighborhood. It's the top 10 code violations. It's high grass and weed, rubbish collection, prohibited outside storage, or tree violations. Or some zoning ordinances, second program zoning ordinances. Our team regulates the use of land within various zoning categories in the city of Coppell. We enforce planned development conditions, activities in a residential neighborhood and commercial. For example, delivery schedules, landscaping around commercial properties, and other things. We also deal with building codes violation. We deal with buildings that don't meet the minimum standards or other violations such as work without permits. The fourth program we deal with is the rental programs. It's divided to 3 different subcategories: single-family rental, multifamily, and short-term rental. The rental program is becoming one of the most time-consuming programs we manage. The number of rental properties is increasing from year to year, and we expecting the numbers even to grow more and more in the coming few years. Our team inspects every single-family and multifamily properties when the tenant changes, and we have about 1,400 single-family rental properties in Coppell. At every touch point we use, it doesn't matter which program we manage, we use every touch point with our residents, educate them about code compliance requirements. We also provide them with ample opportunities to ask us any questions about general code compliance so they can have better understanding of what we're asking them to do. So we don't just like knock on the door, leave our requirements and we leave. We aim to have a relationship with them so they can better understand what we're trying to accomplish. So this is our code compliance process. A lot of residents get frustrated with us because they call us on Monday, they say, my neighbor have high grass and weed, and then they call us on Tuesday, say, you haven't done anything about it, the grass and weed still exist. The reason it still exists because we have to follow a process in order to gain compliance. The process has 9 steps. It's color-coded. 1 to 3, from 1 to 3, all what we're doing was getting their attention. It's like, hey, let me get your attention about a code violation on your property. It's very friendly. Knock and talk to them, a door hanger, just letting them know that a violation exists. 4 to 6 is we're reminding them what we just talked about 2 days ago. It's like, hey, by the way, the high grass and weed still exists in your property, can you please help us fix it? 7 to 9 is when we start going into the legal process. It's like, hey, if you don't fix it, we have to file a complaint or cite you for it. To talk a little bit about the process, I identified, number 1 is we have 2 approaches to code compliance. One of it's proactive approach and the second one's reactive approach. Proactive approach is when our team driving the neighborhood, they find a violation, they address that violation. Or a lot of times we receive a complaint from citizen or other employees. That would initiate our code cases. As soon as we get that, within 24 hours, we get to work. We either knock on the door or leave a courtesy door notice at the location with the time frame to correct the violation. Hey, we have a high grass and weed, we'll give you 7 days, please correct the violation. And then we give them 7 days, that's a reasonable time we give them, and we do a follow-up inspection. If they address the violation, code case closed, and we're done. If the violation wasn't corrected, staff will obtain more photos of the code violation and we move to step 4 of the process. Step 4, instead of just do a courtesy notice, we send a courtesy notice letter. We send a letter by mail, it's more official, to the responsible party. If it's a rental property, most likely we'll send one for the property owner and one for the tenant as well. The notice, again, we'll give them time frame for correction. And then we do a follow-up inspection. If the code case if the violation abated, we're done. If not, we go move number 6. Number 6, again, we'll send them a final notice. We'll tell them, okay, within 7 days, if it doesn't get fixed, we'll have to address it with a citation or other forms. Follow-up inspection, the same thing. We give up 3 opportunities, honestly, to fix it. If they don't, we move to number 8, which final contact. Final contact, we'll attempt to contact, again, the personal responsible party. A lot of time, we like to do the last step 8 on the phone, not just only letter. We try to get on the phone with them, say, hey, we got to come back tomorrow, check on it. If it's not corrected, we'll have to file a complaint in court. When all attempts to obtain voluntary compliance are exhausted, a complaint can be filed with the municipal court. At any given point of this 9-step process, if the owner contact us and say, I'm unable to do it for some reason, if it's health reason, financial reason, we will work with them. Right? It is a protocol process, we follow through, but if any given time you call us, say, I cannot do it for some reason, we will work with you. So I put an example on a calendar for high grass and weed complaint. So let's say we receive a complaint on first day of the month. We receive a complaint, within 24 hours we go and we start investigating the complaint. We make contact, we leave a door notice, and then we follow up on you on the 8th. If it's corrected, we're done. The court case is closed, you'll never see us again. If it's not corrected, we'll send you a courtesy notice. This is the mail. We assume that you're going to receive it on the 11th, for example, and we'll give you another 7 days. We'll do another follow-up inspection on the 16th. If you don't correct it, we send you a final letter on the 17th. We give you 7 more days, and if it's not corrected, we issue a citation. So this is the process. I just put it on a calendar just for you to see how long it takes to fix it. I said high grass and weed. This is for an offender that doesn't happen often. For any reason, if you are repeated offenders, we don't usually work with you that long. Maybe we'll give you 7, maybe 15 days, and then we'll move to step 9 where we issue a citation. This is for people who just they don't do it very often. But if you repeated offender, we kind of minimize this process. What's the most common code violation we see in Coppell? Right now, number 1 is illegal single-family rental. We have a lot of single-family rental, people renting their homes without coming to the city to register their homes. We have overgrown trees, high weed and grass, collection of trash and rubbish, fence maintenance, parking and approved services, junk vehicle, residential outside storage, illegal sign, and building permits, which we're working without permits. Those are the top 10 violations we see in the city of Coppell today. Everything we talked about, again, it's typical cases, what happens when we deal typical cases. But as you know, for the last 12 to 18 months, we have dealt with atypical cases, uncommon code cases. And we had learned about how to approach those cases to avoid the mistakes we've done in the past. Number 1, we learned to seek legal advice early in the process. When we have a difficult case, we need to seek legal advice very early in the process. Sometimes we need to talk to Bob or city attorney to see which path he wants us to go. Does he want us to go through the co-compliance path or go through Board of Adjustment path? Usually Board of Adjustment, it's longer process, but it gives them a timeline when they need to fix the property. We need to be less tolerant with repeat offenders. We need to communicate more often with all stakeholders and coordinate with other departments. And give you a quick example, not too long ago we've dealt with a homeless person in the city of Coppell. Fire was dealing with it, code compliance was dealing with it, and so is police department dealing with it. Instead of just doing what we usually do, every department work differently, we all sat together, we had a family meeting with the family. After that we met with fire and police, and we were able to address it from multiple ways. From the code side of it, from the medical side of it with the fire department, from the police side of it. Not only that, we were able to even connect the family with resources with MetroCrest in order not only to address the problem for long term. And that's some of the lesson learned in the last 12 to 16 months. And now I'm open to any questions.
Yeah. So I know there are a lot of churches and charitable organizations in town that are willing to go out and mow people's yards, pick up debris. Do you have any regular sense of when you involve them in the process to come out and, if you see it's an elderly couple and they don't have the yard equipment and that sort of thing?
Absolutely, absolutely. We keep a list. We keep a list. If we have, again, if at any given time we notice that they're not doing what they're supposed to do because of health reason or age, we connect them with resources, with either groups that comes to us, and sometimes teenagers come to us, or sometimes a church group that comes to us, asking to do some of those projects.
And does that help?
Absolutely, it does help.
Good, thank you.
Kevin?
Thank you for the presentation. Just had two questions. What are the code compliance office hours, and then what is the typical turnaround from maybe like when a citizen complains? I know that there's that 24 to 48 from when you get the complaint to go address it, but getting back to the citizen about the complaint that they receive.
If they leave their number, we call within 24 to 48 hours. If they leave their numbers, a lot of times they want to be anonymous, so they don't leave their numbers. Like, actually, I got a call today that somebody didn't want to leave her number.
So the answer is, if they leave the number, you do follow up with them and let them know what action was taken?
Yes, sir.
And then standard office hours for
It's 8 to 5.
8 to 5. Do people typically leave a message, or are they able to get to a live person?
Most likely they leave a message.
Okay.
How many of the complaints come through the portal?
A lot of complaints either come from Laserfish form online. I'd say 50-50. The Laserfish, they use more the form online. That's when they want to stay anonymous because there's no way for us to track them back.
You may be speculating, but what do you think the drivers are for why there is increased resistance for compliance? Is it just a lot of people moving in? I mean, the fact that we've gotten, not that we're big, but because we've gotten larger, I mean, you may be speculating, but what do you think the rationale
It's
is?
probably a very difficult question to answer. I don't have the exact answer to this one.
No, I was going to say, is it? Do we have damage for problem? Code compliance such as high reason and so on?
We do. I mean, yeah, we do. I mean, it depends what side of town you're looking at. We do. Right now, our staff spending between 40-50% of their time, honestly, just with rental properties. Because we have 1,400, and anytime that the tenant change, we have to go inspect it. Just this year, we've done so far more than 500 inspections.
Because I would think HOA probably reach out first.
They ask us to do, yeah. So actually, ask us to do it.
That's a tit for tat on that one. That's a sensitive subject right now. Just real quick, in 2019, we had 1,081 rental properties, and now we have 1,474. So I know when I talk to staff, it is a huge time consumer.
So 2 questions for me. Bob, I'm going to, go ahead.
My point is this, what I see, being a city attorney for 40 years, other places, as your community begins to age, you have 3rd, 4th generation owners, don't have the pride of ownership or rent. And so a lot of times in rental agreements, they can't make the kind of changes in the house that need to without the owner's position or permission, and the owners are absentee. They may sell their house or rent their house, move to Austin, they're not local. And so there's a disconnect between the tenant and the landlord. And so the more rental properties you have, the more code. And most all the code cases where we have issues are rental units.
And we're increasing about 1% per year. Like we were at 8% in 2019, now at 12%, and I think we're going to be at 13% next year.
The process, I guess you average is about a month, so to say, from 1 through 9, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the same for commercial?
It's actually, yes. A lot of times commercial, we get faster compliance.
Okay.
A lot of
But
times.
generally, the process is similar.
It follows the same process. But a lot of times with commercial, a phone call can fix it. 95% of homes.
So Bob may have answered my question, but I was going to ask, why is our percentage of rentals increasing? And you just think it's due to the aging of the community and... and people moving out and keeping their properties.
Yep, yes, because your property's appreciating, so they can get a good rent for them. Instead of selling them to a new owner, they'll rent them as income. Because they're probably almost paid for, or they had a lower mortgage. You know, if you have 30-year mortgage, you bought your home 25, 20 years ago, it's almost paid off. If you don't want to sell it, because you might move back, there's a variety of reasons, but I've noticed in the cities that the firms represented, that once you start having rental properties, then code issues become more prevalent, especially things like fences, painting, because they'll say, I'm not going to replace the fence, it's not my property. And so then the fence gets in disrepair, and then we fight with trying to find a landlord and get them to put money back into the house they're not living in. If you're living there, you tend to put money and keep your property.
And this is the reason we emphasize so much on our rental programs, because any tenant change, we do an inspection, and this is a great opportunity for us to get the homeowner to do the repairs that needed to be done. If it's fencing or whatever it needs to be done, it's a great opportunity for us. Because he wants to move a tenant in, we want the house to be fixed. So us and the homeowners have the same goal, so he's more incentivized to fix the home.
One of the things you said was that some of our single-family rentals are not registered. Is there anything that we could do to step up the registration process for those homes that are not registered?
So the way we identify them, anytime they come and change their water bill, they let us know, and then we'll know, like if I own the house and somebody else paying the water bill, we know to call you to make sure this is rental or non-rental property. Where it happens is when family members are renting from each other, and that, for example, the dad's still paying or the brother's still paying the water bill, there's no way for us to find out. But on average, like the more time we spend on it, the more time we find it. Because a lot of times what happens when we get a code compliance complaint, we look at their record, for example, in DCAT, who is the owner of the house and who lives there, they don't match. So some of those investigations, we can find about maybe 15 to 20 every year, and we'll find out those rental properties.
Well, it sounds like then we shouldn't have a trouble with non-registered rentals.
No, it's after the fact, though.
It's after the fact.
So then somebody's already moved in. The process is to catch the inspection beforehand.
I understand that.
And I know you're code compliance, but what's the average time for someone to go and get a permit if they are going to rent it out?
Renting a house, if we always make sure that we get, because we know there's a tenant waiting for us, we try to accommodate that the same week. So if you tell us Monday, we'll try to do it for sure by Friday. We usually send you a calendar that has between 7 to 8 slots for inspection, and you choose the inspection that fits your needs for your time.
I hate to bring this one up, but I drove by the place the other day and it was kind of disturbing, but it was the post office.
It's my problem.
Define those ones.
I mean, have you, are we still?
I'm still trying to have that meeting.
Okay.
Very
So
challenging.
in all disclosure, we've been trying to have that meeting with the postmaster for a year. This is October.
Yeah.
I tell you my experience with her. I went there to talk to the postmaster. She said, "Who do you need?" I said, "The postmaster." And she's like, "She's not here." And she gave me her business card. It's like, it's me, but I'm busy right now. I'm not here. And I called her. She never called me back.
There's also, they play off the federal side as well, as far as that's concerned.
So, certainly going to assume we don't want to change our culture. We want to continue addressing that like we always have. But does that mean, are there additional resources that are needed or something to help with this process? Or I guess I'd let that out there instead of changing our culture.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. I think, first of all, there just has to be an understanding of what the process is.
Right.
So, with 3 code compliance officers out in the community, when people call, they're going to get a phone message. And we're going to do our best to call back. They should be calling back, right, in terms of what's going on. So, if we wanted to have a dedicated person who does nothing but answer the phone, just so there's a person on the other end, I guess that's a possibility. I don't know that that's very efficient. I'm sure that we can have them doing some other things. But the things that we do, they're just time consuming, right? And as I can tell you, I know in talking to them in the past, if the rental properties continue to grow at the rate that they're growing, I would say yes, your staff's going to say to you that this is getting to a point where we're not able now to take care of other things. And when you talk to folks in the community, people notice in this community that it's not as kept, I guess is the way to say that, as it has been in the past. And so yes, this is the culture of working with them with empathy and compassion. But what we're finding is that the pushback is harder, faster, not as nice. And so therefore staff does take it on the chin. And I mean, we've shared with you some of the examples, even in the last 6 months, of some of the things that staff's been having to deal with. But we continue to work with professionalism, and things just take time. Now, he mentioned the atypical cases and some of the things that they've learned over the last year and a half from a coordination standpoint, working with the other departments. That's something that's come through, okay, we're seeing these kinds of things, so now we have to, start meeting together because this one's getting peppered, this one's getting peppered. I mean, as y'all know, as an example, one of the cases, what was it, how many? 200?
Calls?
Yeah.
200.
And the last?
250 since 2020.
Right. 250 calls just to this one property.
Oh.
And here's the deal, we respond. So again, I don't know that people necessarily recognize think that happens in Coppell, but it does, right?
So I have 8 friends in the city that calls me at least 30 minutes, each one of them a week, about 8 of them.
So that's what I would be, and I'm not proposing we have to you can just throw money at resources and solve it. But it is true, we're an aging community, and
the properties are aging.
Yes, that's right. The properties are aging. But we have, and I've heard this for 10 years, that there would be redevelopment come in here, but values remain high, which keeps redevelopment from happening often, or delays redevelopment, right? And so you're gonna have more and more of these problems, which to your point are just gonna take more time from staff. And I certainly would be in favor of not only the citizens continue to think this is a great place, but also our staff continue to think it's a great place to work and not be overwhelmed by the increase.
So I will tell you, they're through experiences, because they're connected to other cities. Other cities are much more hard-nosed.
Yeah.
From a code compliance standpoint. And maybe they got there, maybe we're going through that evolution, right? But there are cities that are much more hard-nosed about their code compliance. I mean, they don't spend the time that we do. They just get a complaint, go out, it starts the clock immediately.
So I was going to ask, especially in the rentals, should we take a look at doing something differently? And I don't know what that differently is, but is there something that we should look at?
That's a legal question.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a legal question for me, because I don't know how I could treat them any differently than the homeowners, me personally.
Well, code and violation is code violation, whether it's homeowner. It's just once you make contact with them from our end, it's more difficult because now they've got to go out and find the landlord. A lot of times they live out of town, they don't return phone calls, and it's just a long process. Not to bring up River Chase again, but we had an absentee owner, and as a result of that, they're in California, so now you got to write them and call them, and then they got to call back some here. The same is with a small property. If the owner lives in California or Michigan or Florida or somewhere else, now I've got to track them down, get them to respond, just to fix the fence. And so it's just one of those things that because the housing stock is aging and is turned over 2 or 3 times. When I lived in Coppell, between 85 and 95 when I moved in. almost 2/3 of your town moved in at the same time. We were all neighbors, we knew one another, all of our kids went to school, and now that's changing. Some stayed, some left, I left.
Are you renting your house?
Mrs. Hager told me that I could go with her at the time if I wanted to, and I decided that that was a good thing.
That was a good plan.
But, you know, that's just changed, you know, my old neighborhood, there's only one original owner still in that neighborhood, and that's Nancy, you know. And so, you know, and that's been 20 years. And so, there's different people with, you know, they want Coppell too, but you know, those houses have 25 years on them. Some more and some love.
Yes,
New
sir.
fans.
So how often do we update the contact information of the homeowners that are actually renting out? Because I would think that,
Every time we receive registration, rental registration, we update the contact information.
It's an annual,
It's
it's an annual renewal.
so I was just wondering, because you were talking about how you can't get hold of some of them, but it's
But yeah,
updated.
it's, if you live there, I can knock on your door.
Sure.
If you don't live here and you live somewhere else, I can't go, you know, we don't go to Dallas and knock on your door.
But that's what I mean,
Where-
you would have contact information
Well,
updated
The
every time.
truth
they
is, some
apply.
homeowners don't have investment in like, beside their financial investment, they have nothing connects them to Coppell. So for them to ask them to spend more money on something they're making money on, they don't want to do that. So it becomes more harder for them to do it, because you want the house to be generating money for them. When a code compliance come asking them to change their fence, now the house is not making money for them. So they try to avoid us.
I try to avoid this.
They do.
No, I know they do, but that's the reason why.
So of the 500 inspections that have been done so far this year, if I remember you correctly, right, is it the same 3 people doing? I mean, how many people do we have actually doing the inspections?
It's 3 people. We're about, between all of them, each one of does at least about one a day, one rental inspection a day.
Okay.
So 2.5 rental inspections are done every day.
Okay.
And that's, you know, it takes time because you have to coordinate the time that the tenant or the homeowner is gonna have to be home and our time. So we work very closely with tenants and homeowners. A lot of times the homeowners wanna be there when the inspection happens. We rather the homeowner be there or an agent of the homeowner, not the tenant, because we could actually talk to the person who's going to fix what's wrong.
Is that why, am I correct, is that why we went to like flex hours for compliance, so that they wouldn't have to get in so early, but people are generally home after dinner? Did we do that?
We have not done that.
Okay.
That's what I was like.
Must have been smarter.
What town are you?
If we have an instance when somebody tell us, hey, I cannot be home till 5 o'clock, we will definitely help them with that. We will not say they will close our doors at 5, we work with them.
Yeah, but, yeah.
And a lot of homeowners have agents now too.
Oh, you mean the rentals?
Multiple properties.
Multiple properties.
Mhm. Okay.
Like we have a company that owns 50 homes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All other questions, Mindy will answer them.
That's such a great question, Mindy will answer it. So did you find this helpful to understand what the process is? You know,
Well, I knew it took time, but seeing the calendar helped.
right.
You know, like the calendar is good because honestly, the homeowner is in charge. At any time, if the violation ceases to exist, we stop the process.
So what percentage of all the violations in a year resolve before step 7?
We
Or 8,
try.
whatever the red one is?
I think I've looked at it. It's almost 3 to 4% that goes to step 9. Just 3 to
Okay.
4%. The rest of them, we work very hard with them. Because all what it takes, just a phone call would talk to us and let us know why you're not fixing it, and we will work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we find, like, I work with a lady that her husband just passed away. Instead of us hammering her, I found somebody else to mow the grass for her. So if we know why we're not doing it, we connect you with resources to get it done.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So, and just to, on the other side of that, other folks are not that way. And those become the time consumers.
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, we were laughing about the RV parked on Hertz. The police department got it taken care of, and within 24 hours, another truck with a camper and the boat showed up.
And a boat, yeah.
And the person that had been living in the RV was now living in the back of the truck.
Right. So that is an example of now here's where this is just gonna take more time, right? And it's now involving not only the police department, but it could potentially get to the code compliance again, and so that's where the relationship goes back and forth.
Yeah.
You know how you talked about a lot of people call, right? But they could also do a report or complaint via, I guess, the app or through the web, right?
Yeah, we have a form online that you just click on it.
They could also be anonymous, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but they prefer to call rather than be anonymous. Is that the way we get the complaints?
I think they feel better when they do it online to be anonymous because they can put any name they want or any email they want. And a lot of times their number is 1111, like there's no way for us to contact
No,
them.
I was just wondering if we're trying to have them transition into reporting online versus calling, since that app is there, the source is there, rather than having to answer the call.
A lot of people, like the people who call us, honestly, they just like to talk to us.
As I've already said, it's kind of like utility billing, quite frankly. There are people who just consistently just still come in to utility billing, even though they have all the options, because it gives them an opportunity to, maybe see them eye to eye if they're in the office, or at least have a voice on the other side. And again, because we try to deal with it with empathy to understand the situation, it gives them an opportunity to kind of talk it through. I mean, that's the personal side.
Yeah, I was just trying to see.
Yes, it would absolutely, right? I mean, it'd be so easy, just go online, file your complaint, and let us know, right?
Some people text me, honestly, they just say, hey, like, a lot of people have our cell phones, they text us about complaints. We give them, we don't want to, any way they can reach us, we tell them, hey, you can reach us. It's online, a phone call, text message, email. Yes, ma'am?
No.
You like my haircut?
I do.
I was
I was just saying, I'm not texting you.
I'm not sure
But
that's
I
in
do.
compliance or not.
So if it does go to a citation, who assesses the amount of the fine?
The judge.
Muni judge.
Is there any, do we have guidelines in our ordinances about that, or is it completely up to the
It's
judge?
discretion of the judge, separation of powers issue. You can put a maximum or a minimum, but you cannot assess fine. You could write in your ordinance habitual offender enhancement. The window fine increases depending on what you do. If you go in and plead guilty and pay the fine, if you've had another violation, I think the judge has got an enhancement on there for repeat offenders that he or she may see. Or if there's an enhancement on circumstances.
The last thing I would say too is taking one of the situations we said earlier. Unfortunately, a lot of times people try to put us in the middle of civil issues. They are not code compliance issues, but they are civil issues. And we work really hard not to be in the middle of that, but it's very difficult. There's not a whole lot of patience. Well, the city should be able to take care of that. I'm sorry, we can't. It's not our purview. And that's a hard answer.
I get one today, they have common fence and they don't want the kids to touch the fence from the other side.
He doesn't want what?
Like the kids are playing in the backyard, they don't want the kids to be able to touch the fence.
Yeah.
Not only that, they want to stay anonymous.
But that's the kind of calls we get.
Right.
They kick the ball over the fence,
Right.
it's in the backyard.
The ordinance becomes a bat to beat
Yeah.
their neighbor with.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still handling that one, so I'll update you next time.
Okay. I guess so, the open question, is there anything that we need to consider? I was listening to the habitual offender
Yeah, one of the things, having represented like a number of first-tier suburbs over the firm has in the last 60 years, you have to be very vigilant about this. You might have started getting uglier than you've had been in the past because you cannot afford for your housing stock to slip. Yeah, I've seen that happen. And the code officers here are by far better than I have a lot of other officers. Trust me. They're empathetic, they're diligent, they're bright. I don't have to worry about when we go to municipal court. They're prepared. They coordinate things with David, the prosecutor, my partner. You have a very good team, but you can always have more. You know, that's something that the manager's office, obviously. And that's one of the things that's hurt some of my other clients is not committing the funds to enforce. Unfortunately, it is what it is, okay, and I don't pick on them, but, you know, they use some of their block grant funding for code officers, and what does that tell you? It's too late. Don't be that city. The fact that you don't have it available to you is a good thing. But, you know, I've got some cities that really struggle with code, and they're horrific. I mean, I even do the code doc in one of my cities, and it's horrific. And once you allow people to put tarps on things and stack stuff up in the driveway, you get vermin, you have all other kinds of problems. And the neighbors, you know, struggle with it too, because now they got to rat their neighbor out. You know, we saw a couple of junk vehicle cases. We never saw a junk vehicle case in Coppell, ever. Ever. Now we've got a couple of them.
We do.
You know, someone's working on their car in a part of town and they're out front, and they get a ticket, or they get a letter. I can't emphasize enough how important it really is.
Are you having the compliance issues more so of an area that doesn't have HOA, or is it more so where there is still HOA and still having that issue? And if there is, or if it is more so of an HOA, have we tried to have some meetings with the HOA and discuss further as to us, rather than the city, you know, getting to that point?
This is a great question. Tracy Fisher's been working with me. I'm going to present the same presentation to some HOAs to explain to them the process, and maybe we try to build a relationship with some HOAs to see how they can help us. A lot of time what they do when they have an HOA, they want us to enforce for them. So we enforce code cases, we cannot enforce aesthetic.
Right.
And a lot of the HOAs call us for aesthetic, like I don't like the door color, I don't like the weed in the grass. But I do have a plan. I do have a plan to meet with some HOAs and present. Do you have a door issue too?
No. But I was just saying that if we have, that's an additional resource possibly if we can have them assist the city in the way to try to remedy some of the.
Historically, they want us to be like
The
to
bad
be
one.
enforcement. Yes,
Okay.
but yeah, he said the bad words.
Okay.
My HOA certainly doesn't have a problem.
Actually, true.
They gave me 3 weeks one time to repaint my entire fence, which was like difficult to get anyone to do.
Just real quick, there's a water leak, and so that is what's happening.
I was gonna say, call 911. He's down there. He's down there. Struggling.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why there's a
little puddle in
there's a
the
puddle
council
in
chambers.
the council chambers.
For himself. He is feral.
Okay, well, they just walked out there.
Oh, where's Timos was at?
So he is hurt, right?
Bijou?
Okay, I was saying something.
I saw
Yeah.
Kevin ran out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a great national night out, and we had about 75 national night HOAs. We have contacts from all those 75 people. Can we send them this presentation saying, hey, here's the phone number, email address, for that you can send us instead of calling some, so they can present to their own HOA hey, here is the process that City of Coppell is doing with the code compliance.
Sure, I can even work with Hannah to cut this and send it in a YouTube form so they can watch it as well. This is the easiest way to reach them.
I know, I
Yeah,
saw
it's
it.
a great method, yes. I
Sorry,
like it.
we got distracted. Squirrel.
I think he might have fell or something.
Well, it's something, you saw him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what caught my attention.
Hurt his, must have sprained his foot or something.
Okay.
That's why I watch it.
So that's all.
We're multitasking.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
I know, I'm like, what is happening? There's a leak.
Somebody got hurt.
There's a guy laying on the ground outside the window.
He got hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions for Louis?
No, I was, part that I asked, is there a particular section that we have more complaints than another
We
area?
it's hard to point out. You know, usually older neighborhoods will have, you know, older neighborhood will have more issues, yes.
And the older neighborhoods are not going to be HOAs, but it's not.
Right.
Sure. Not a direct.
When we've looked
connection.
at in the past, it's yes to the non-HOA areas.
Well, the Bird Streets, we don't have any, we don't have an HOA.
But these are older areas than the Bird Streets.
Hmm.
Right. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, the time is 6:46 PM and we're at the end of work session. We will convene into regular session of the city council at 7:30.
Did something happen that made you laugh?
cannot get.
Good evening, everybody. The time is 7:30 p.m. and we're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. Just as a reminder, anyone wishing to speak during our citizens' appearance must sign the register outside the council chambers and list your home address. Tonight, we're honored to have Pastor Tom Palmer here to give the invocation, which will be immediately followed by the Coppell Fire Department Honor Guard, who will post the colors and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please remain standing for both of these. Reverend Palmer.
Let us pray together. Gracious, eternal God, we pause to give you thanks for another beautiful day and the privilege of living in freedom and peace in this city and nation. We ask that you would be especially with those whose lives are very different tonight from ours, victims of horrific terrorist attacks in the Middle East. Lord, have mercy. And be with those who are the victims of aggression and injustice in Ukraine and other troubled places of the world where war and famine are far too common. But help us to do our part here for the common good for our part of the world. Thank you for those here who serve and protect and who respond in emergencies, fire and otherwise. Thank you for those who educate and develop young people in school and home. Thank you for those who work behind the scenes and up front for a better community, and especially for our mayor and city council. Bless them with wisdom and discernment, that the decisions made here tonight would be for the good of this community, that your will might be done on this part of the earth as it is in heaven. We ask this in your holy name, and all God's people said, Amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. On. Forward. March.
Please be seated. Reverend Coppell, would you please join me up front? So thank you very much for being with us so often and so many times, so we really do appreciate it. So we have this little item for you. Whereas Reverend Dr. Tom Palmer has served as senior pastor at the First United Methodist Church for over 10 years, and whereas Reverend Palmer has over 35 years of ministry service, and whereas Reverend Palmer is a faith leader whose church members describe him as compassionate, humble, approachable, sincere, and grounded in his faith, and whereas he has supported multiple service-oriented programs through FUMC, such as Coppell Cares, SAC Summer Hunger, Weekend Backpack Program, Reading Buddies, and many others, and whereas in recognition of his exemplary service to our community, we wish to extend our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to Reverend Palmer for his years of devotion to this community. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 10th, 2023, as Reverend Dr. Tom Palmer Appreciation Day. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Coppell to be affixed this 10th day of October, 2023. So this is going to be a little bit unscripted. I know that our lay leader is under the weather right now, so I was wondering if the member of the Staff Parish Relations Committee might like to come forward. Steve? Now, you had a few things to say about Tom recently, and I thought you might like to repeat those.
You know, Wes asked me to provide some data about Tom, and I told him I wasn't sure I had data. But what I told Wes was that Tom's story as the leader of our church is really the story of our church and the impact that our church seeks to have in the local community. And Tom, as the leader of our church, has a significant impact both on setting the direction for that, encouraging participation in that, and really making it a priority for our church.
Thank you very much. So asking a preacher if they have anything to say is kind of like asking a politician if they have anything to say.
That's it's very dangerous. But anyway, thank you all for your service to our community, for your service to our community. We're all in this together, and that's what we seek to do. God's purposes for this community and serving in the various ways that we do to ensure that all have the opportunities for freedom and justice and love and the kind of community that we want to be and beyond. So thank you, Coppell, Texas. You are such a blessing to so many and to me. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
That was item number 5 on the agenda, by the way. Item number 6 is a proclamation designating the month of October as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'd like to ask Chief Kevin Richardson and, Chief Kevin Richardson. And then we've got a few members out here, Rochelle, Diane, Sandy, Gail, and Kathy might like to come forward as well. Did I get everybody's name? Okay. Whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an annual campaign to increase awareness of the disease, and whereas this year more than 297,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in women in the U.S., along with over 51,000 new cases of non-invasive breast cancer, and over 2,800 men will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer as well. And whereas this year more than 43,000 people will likely die from this terrible disease, and whereas invasive female breast cancer incident rates have been increasing by about 0.5% per year since the mid-2000s, And whereas increased awareness, especially of family history and other common risk factors, preventative care, regular screenings, including mammograms, can help save lives through early diagnosis and prompt treatment. And whereas through early detection and improved treatments, there is a 91% chance of a 5-year survival rate for women diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do proclaim the month of October 2023 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Coppell to be affixed this 10th day of October 2023. And I see you have a few little things to say there.
Of course. And I'm the president of the board for Pink Souls in Motion. The group actually started in 2006, and it was a very small group of walkers that were walking for one woman's mom who passed away this year. And it started out 60 miles in 3 days, and then we started growing a little bit more each year. This is part of the board that we have right now. We have about 100 members right now on our team. In 2011, we became our own nonprofit. We started giving out grants, which we call the Michelle's Gift of Hope, for a member of our team that lost her battle to breast cancer. And so far this year, we've given out, throughout the beginning of Michelle's Gift of Hope, we have given out 56 awards and totaling $34,950. So those are for people that need help with medical bills. We had one woman, she had to have a day nurse come in because chemo was making her pass out. So that helps offset some of her medical bills and the families if they have any extra expenses. We also have our community outreach. Our team has gotten together, we've made blankets and put together bags for chemo treatments for people when they go in to have their chemo treatments. The other thing is last year we finished, and I have that number on here. Yes, last year we made $99,765 for the year to give to Komen to walk the 60 miles and a lifetime milestone award of $2.2 million. We are definitely going to overpass that $99,000 this year. We have probably about 78 walkers between doing the 3-day and the 1-day. We'll have about 78 walkers this year in Dallas. And we appreciate you inviting us out here every year and attending this event. Thank you.
And yes, I do have a shirt. Didn't get to wear it tonight, but I'll be wearing this proudly this next year. So thank you very much, ladies. Item number 7 is a proclamation designating the month of October as Fire Prevention Month, and I'd like to invite Chief Richardson and Bethany Everett to come forward. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, with homes being the locations where people are greatest at risk from fire, and whereas cooking is a leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,000 fires annually between 2016 and 2020, and whereas while cooking fires result in a great number of home fire deaths, injuries, and property damages, these are largely preventable. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme is Cooking Safely Starts With You, Pay Attention to Fire Prevention, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Now therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Fire Prevention Month throughout the city, and I urge all the citizens of Coppell to practice safe cooking for Fire Prevention Month and beyond, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Coppell's fire and emergency services. Therefore, in witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Coppell to be affixed this 10th day of October, 2023. Chief?
So good evening, my name is Kevin Richardson. I serve as the fire chief, and I want to give you a little background on Fire Prevention Week. It started back 1922 as a result of the Great Chicago Fire. We all remember that. Since that time, the American Fire Service has endorsed and supported Fire Prevention Week once a year, although fire prevention is practiced year-round. Here in Coppell, Texas, we have a number of activities, as you mentioned, throughout the month, and I have this evening our Life Safety Park Manager, Ms. Bethany Everett. She's going to talk about the theme and on the activities that we have planned.
Very good. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor and Council, as always, for your continued support of this proclamation each year. So this year's theme touches on something that each and every one of us do just about every day, and that's cooking, right? So whether you consider yourself to be a master chef in the kitchen, or maybe your last meaningful experience cooking was with an easy bake oven many, many years ago, it's about my level of skill, be honest. We could all benefit from some safe cooking practices. And so this year's theme of cooking safely starts with you, really highlights the fact that cooking is the leading cause of fires in the United States, and it's also the leading cause of home fire deaths and injuries. So working smoke alarms, utilizing a kitchen timer in the kitchen to help remind you of cooking food, as well as practicing a bit more attentiveness in the kitchen can really go a long way in reducing your fire risk. So we invite our community to pay attention to fire prevention. Also, as an exciting capstone to the many educational efforts that we do throughout the year, and namely October as well, we do invite our community to join the Coppell Fire Department Edutainment Troupe to the Coppell Arts Center on Tuesday, November 7th at 10 a.m. to enjoy a free fire safety performance. And this is actually the same skit that the troupe performs at the local elementary schools throughout the month. So we invite you to that show, especially if you haven't had a chance, or throughout that month, if you hadn't had a chance to talk to your child about that show. The tickets are free, so please come. And more information about that event, as well as more information on fire safety, can be found on our website, which is lifesafetypark.org. And so, again, we just want to emphasize that it takes everybody to build a fire-safe community. We appreciate your support and your observance of Fire Prevention Week. A reminder, cooking safety starts with you. Pay attention to fire prevention. Thank you so much.
Item number 8 is our citizens' appearance. We did not have anybody signed up to speak to the citizens' appearance, so we'll move on to item number 9. Item number 9 is the consent agenda. This is routine in nature and is generally enacted in a single motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget or past council action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen and should be scrolling through. Council, do you have any discussions or wish to pull any item from the consent? Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda items 9A through K.
Seconded by Councilmember Hinojosa Smith. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carol Nevels, Jen Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
All right, item number 10 is a public hearing, so I open the public hearing. Any person that has signed up to speak at the public hearing will be called in the order that they signed up. Public hearings are limited to 5 minutes maximum per speaker and a maximum of 1 hour for each of the proponents and opponents of the item. Mr. Steer, would you please read item number 10 into the record?
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. This is item number 10 this evening. It is a public hearing to consider approval of PD 134R2 SF7 Coppell Greens Lot 11 Block F zoning change request to allow for a reduction in setbacks between a proposed pool and the existing residence on .17 acres of property located at 856 Mulraney Drive at the request of John Wittenberg, being represented by Tony Martin of Robertson Pools, Inc. The plan development for the Coppell Green subdivision was approved in June 1996. This allowed the development of 226 lots on 65 acres of property. A residence was built on the subject property, Lot 11, Block F, in the year 2000. The residential lot is small and has very little area for a pool. It has a 10-foot use and utility easement in the rear yard behind the middle fence. In order to fit the pool in the backyard, the pool is proposed to be closer to the building than the 5 feet that's required in the zoning ordinance. Because this subdivision is currently a planned development, this is a zoning requirement, the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council are the authority to grant waivers to the requirements. In reviewing other cities' ordinances, the majority allow the setback between the house and the pool to be waived if the permit includes engineered plans for reinforcing one or both foundations to accommodate the load of the other, or a letter submitted by a professional engineer stating that the proposed pool will not adversely affect the foundation of the primary structure. We sent out 25 notices within 200 feet. We received 5 in favor, 0 opposed, 100 courtesy notices within 800 feet, and then we received 1 in favor just beyond that 800-foot boundary. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of PD 134R2 SF7 Lot 11 Block F Coppell Greens, allowing for a reduction in the setbacks between the proposed pool and the existing residence, subject to an engineered plan or letter from a registered professional engineer be submitted at the time of permitting. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I believe the applicant and his representative are in the audience if you have any questions for them.
Council, any questions for Mr. Steer? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Steer, so, you know, when I was looking at an aerial of this earlier, so this doesn't back up to someone else's backyard? There's
Correct.
some, like a green belt area behind that.
Yes, sir.
Do you know the distance between their rear property line and the rear property line of the house directly behind them? I mean, it's more than the 10-foot easement, right?
That's correct, yes. So you've got 10 foot and then you've got the green space. I'd say, 30 foot, 40 foot.
Okay.
Based on this map here.
Okay. So this isn't, while the setback allowance they're seeking is up against their home,
Yeah,
it's not going to sit on top of a home behind them.
Right, and they're meeting all their required setbacks in terms of distance from their property lines.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Seeing no further questions, does the applicant or the representative have anything to add, or?
No, sir.
All right. We had no one sign up to speak for the public hearing. So council, back to you. Councilmember Hill.
I'm sorry, I did have one question that I wanted to ask Matt. In the application packet that we got in our council package, I saw a reference to safety glazing in the windows adjacent to the pool. Is that a requirement that's in the zoning, or is that being enforced by the building code department?
That's the building code. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So when they go to pull the permit for the pool, then that's where that
Correct.
requirement comes in?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no questions, so I move to close the public hearing and approve agenda item 10 with conditions.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa, Smith, Carroll, Neville's, Jenn, Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 11 is a public hearing, so I'll open that public hearing and ask Mr. Steer to read that one into the record.
All right, this is item number 11 on your agenda. It is a public hearing to consider approval of a text change amendment to the Code of Ordinances, subsection C of section 1235-3, in-ground and above-ground swimming pools and spas, of Article 35, accessory structure regulations of Chapter 12 zoning, to allow the placement of swimming pools and spas within the 5 feet of the main structure with engineering justification and authorizing the mayor to sign. This subsection of the zoning ordinance was last amended in June 2023 with the accessory structure change. As you just heard, we have received a permit application in conflict with separation requirements established for the pool to the main structure, and this is a cleanup item to this section of the ordinance. In reviewing other cities' ordinances, the majority allow the setback between the house and the pool to be waived if the permit includes engineered plans for reinforcing one or both foundations to accommodate the load of the other, or a letter is submitted by a professional engineer stating that the proposed pool will not adversely affect the foundation of the primary structure. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the ordinance amendment, which is in line with best practices. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions for Mr. Steer? Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Have we had any prior application that was denied because of this restriction?
I'm not exactly sure if we've had any that were denied, but I can tell you that it is common practice within our surrounding cities and within our comparison cities to allow for this.
Okay, I was just wondering if there was any denial. I was wondering if we're going to go back and let them know that it's been changed, that they could reapply. But you don't recall anyone
No, sir.
that has been denied? Okay, thank you.
All right. We had nobody signed up to speak on this item, so Mr. Steer, unless you had anything else
No,
to
sir.
add? Council? Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and approve item number 12. 11, excuse me. I had already turned the page. 11.
I have a motion and a second from Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa, Smith, Carroll, Neville's, Jenn, Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 12 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Boswell to read this into the record.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Item number 12 is a public hearing. Consider approval of a zone change request from SF7 to S-1266-SF7 special use permit to approve a short-term rental on property located at 1334 Bradford Drive at the northwest corner of Bradford Drive and River Chase Drive. All right, now we're caught up. So this item is regarding a short-term rental. On May 30th of 2023, or so earlier this year, Coppell City Council approved an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Article 30, for special use permits, defining and establishing special use permit requirements for lodging houses, which includes short-term rentals. So all existing and future short-term rentals will be required to have a special use permit in addition to registering with the city in order to legally operate within the city of Coppell. So this, what's on your screen is the application this evening, the house. So we currently have about 10 STRs that will need to go through the process, with this being our second. So we had one last month at 416K, and then this one is at 1334 Bradford. So the applicants own the home since 2013, has a homestead exemption. The home has been used for short-term rentals since 2019. The home has 1 bedroom for rent with a maximum of 2 guests and is proposing to continue with the same setup, with the owners of the property residing here as well. The residence is located at the corner of Bradford and River Chase. The single-family home has a 2-car garage and has at least 2 to 4 additional parking spaces on the driveway for guest vehicles to park. So here we have a picture of the guest bedroom. They have a closet, a private bathroom adjacent to the bedroom. They will also have access to the patio, the garden outside, as well as a pool and hot tub area. So there are no signs on the building indicating that it is an STR. The site is listed on the Airbnb website. Staff has communicated with code compliance as well as the police department, and there have been no complaints for this address related to the STR. Staff has confirmed with the finance department that the applicant is up to date on paying their quarterly hot taxes and submitting them to the city. So part of the current process for having an STR is registering with the city, which will still be required should this case be approved. So we did send out notices within 200 feet as well as courtesy notices within 800 feet. We did get 4, actually we got a couple more after this was sent in. Not opposed, as well as someone showing up at the P&Z meeting. So 4 within the 200 feet, which is on the lower right-hand side. And then we had within the 800 feet, 4 opposed, and an additional 2 in favor. So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request with the following conditions. 1, to obtain an STR permit prior to their current one expiring. And 2, to notify staff of any changes of property ownership. So that is the end of my presentation. The applicant is here as well to answer any questions.
Council, have any questions for Ms. Boswell? Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Of the 3 or 4 that were opposed within, 800 feet, I
Yes,
think
sir.
it is, was there any more commentary on why they were opposed or any justification or rationale?
Honestly, I think it was more of just the thought of it in general.
Okay.
Because when I talked to one of them and I told her, well, it's been there since 2019, she was like, oh, I didn't know.
Okay.
I think they had some other issues with some other houses down the street, actually.
Okay. And then a second question, so the PD condition, just to clarify, I think we covered this last time, but B, notify staff of any change of property ownership. So if the property changes, we're notified, that allows us to change, to go in and...
And remove the SUP.
Okay.
Yeah, so we could
In case.
repeal it.
We'd be able to repeal it.
Yes, sir.
And we're able to, the city is able to do that, or
Yes, sir.
start that process itself. Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Hill.
I do have one question. With this approval, we give them the right to rent 1 bedroom. Can they rent out more bedrooms than that under this?
I would say no, because that's what they're asking for.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to do more, they would have to come back and request that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Walker.
You mentioned earlier, Mary, that the people that are renting this are going to stay in the home.
Yes, sir. And I believe they work out of the house, so they're there.
Is there but there's no PD that they would only be able to have a short-term rental during the period of time that they were present, right?
I guess I'm trying to understand your question.
They could lease to a short-term rental and then go on vacation for 2 weeks.
So part of the requirement is that someone is there during that rental stay, whether it be them or they have to hire someone as their manager to be there.
Is that part of the SUP, or is that?
Yes,
Because
sir.
it's not a, I'm sorry?
That's part of the ordinance that we drafted.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mary.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Well, the next two items are for the applicant to speak and also for the public hearing. So, Mr. and Ms. Allen, you signed up to speak for the public hearing. Did you want to speak as an applicant, or we can combine this all into one if you're so willing?
So do it all in one, it's fine.
Come on down then.
Thank you, Mayor.
One little caveat of speaking is you have to give your name and address for the record.
I think I can handle that. Steve Allen, 1334 Bradford Drive, Coppell, Texas. Thank you. I think Mary has summed it up pretty well, but I thought I'd reinforce a few key points for the council. We appreciate y'all considering this zoning change request, and we've been residents of the city here for 10 years, been providing this Airbnb service since 2019, and we've had over 225 positive reviews and are ranked as the Airbnb as a super host each year for those years that we've been a part of this. As we've said, we do short-term Airbnb rentals out of the home using that single bedroom and single ensuite bathroom for no more than 2 people. And all the people are pre-screened by Airbnb with good reviews in order for us to even approve them for a stay. So that's one of the steps that we take. Obviously, we're the owners and live in the property on a full-time basis, and my wife actually works remotely in the home on a full-time basis as well. All of our guests are supervised, obviously, by my wife, my son, adult son Quentin, or myself when we're on the premises. We have a security system installed with external and internal cameras that are visible from our wife's home office, as well as all of our smart devices that allows us to monitor the property at all times. The type of guests that we have range from everybody from grandparents and relatives that come to visit their family to business people that are there for training, be it corporate or church related, as well as parents and kids that come for activities such as ballet and sports and cheerleading. And then travelers that are flying out of town through DFW or Love airports. And then folks that are attending local events or conferences. Most of our guests use Uber or Lyft for transportation, but those that do have adequate parking, as was mentioned earlier. And obviously the limitation of those rooms for use, we don't allow any parties, and we're pretty strong conservative folks in terms of how we operate the room. And for us as a property owner and a citizen of Coppell, we're invested in being responsible hosts as well as neighbors, and in maintaining a peaceful neighborhood, which I think is exhibited by the fact that nobody knows that we're even there. And that was intentional. That's the way we operate it. So we're committed to being those responsible hosts and that thoughtful neighbor and being a positive contributor to our community. And we appreciate you all's consideration of this request. And we're here if you have any questions of us. Thank you.
I think you're free to go. Now, I would be remiss, Marcia, you did sign up to speak. Did you have anything to say, or did?
No, I'm letting him
All right. Council, back to us. Any comments, questions? Councilmember Walker.
Well, obviously it's a lovely home and a lovely couple. You know, the problem that I have is not this one short-term rental, but it's the growth of the industry within our community and all the concerns that I've previously outlined that I have about that. And, you know, the first short-term rental application that we had was just an absolute, just beautiful lady. And same thing, single room while she was there. And this is the same thing, but this is obviously the distinct minority of short-term rentals. And it's by no means indicative of the industry or the bulk of what you would expect, or that any city, whether it's Frisco, Plano, McKinney, any experience that they've had. So I still view this as operating a commercial operation within a residential zoned area. And however lovely the home might be, however wonderful the people that are offering their room might be, and certainly all we've seen is wonderful people come up here thus far. However much control they might exhibit or exert over the renters, However wonderful the short-term rentals might have been in terms of the experience to date, that's not my concern. My concern is that, given our proximity to DFW, given the problem that so many cities in North Texas are having with this industry, and the growth that we're experiencing, not just in short-term rentals, all across North Texas, but long-term rentals, and corporate aggregators buying homes for both reasons. And I think this is a severe threat to the property values of everyone that lives in Coppell. It might be, something that on its face tonight is entirely inoffensive, and I would have to admit that's the case with respect to the people involved and the home involved. But as an industry and as a commercial operation operating smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood, it is offensive to me, and I do oppose it. However wonderful the people might be, and they've been wonderful, and good folks, good citizens coming before us, I'm looking more at the industry and the encroachment that we're seeing in our community and the threat that it poses to all of our homes and to the peaceful existence that we moved here for when we decided to buy property that was zoned SF9, SF7, SF12, understanding that we were buying a home and a residence to be surrounded by residential neighbors living their lives, and not a commercial operation operating a hotel or a motel or anything along those lines. So I'm not going to be able to vote for this.
All right, thank you. Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. With all due respect to what Councilmember Walker has said, I do appreciate those that actually provide quality Airbnb. As a nonprofit organization member, we go to multiple places and we look for places that we could actually gather together and have a meaningful meeting without having to check into a hotel. And I do appreciate the services that are provided by citizens like the couple that are here today. Again, that just part of the property rights, and we have the code enforcement, and we have the strict ordinance that requires them to go through the process. And as he had mentioned, they've been very good neighbors, and some of the neighbors didn't even know that they were providing Airbnb. And again, those are the services that a lot of the people that goes to, whether it be convention or meetings, board meetings, that they look for just so they could have a convenience of being at a place and have a meeting. So yes, I'm against those that are actually having parties, but I'm all for people that actually do provide the places that the organization could have good good meetings at. So again, I support this for the fact that there hasn't been any problem, and we do have all the requirements in place, and they are going through the process, and I do appreciate them coming to apply for this process. So I'm all for this.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I will accept the motion. Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and approve item number 12 with conditions.
Thank you. We have a motion. Councilmember Johns with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Enos, Smith, Carroll, Neville's, Jen, Matthew Hill. Opposed? Walker? The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 13 is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing and ask Ms. Boswell to read this one into the record.
Item number 13, consider approval of a zone change request from PD 259R2 SF 7 and 9 to PD 259R3 SF 7 and 9 to provide a new concept and detail plan that would allow for a gated community and private streets over 2 phases. 54 residential lots in Phase 1, 9 residential lots in Phase 2, and associated common area lots. So item number 13 is Blackberry Farm. So the last change for this site was in July of 2022. An amendment was approved to reduce the number of residential lots to 63. The residential component and layout of the project is not changing. It is still proposed to have 63 residential lots in 2 phases. If the PD proposal is approved, the applicant will need to come back with a new plat, revised declarations, covenants and restrictions to address the additional maintenance of the HOA for the roads. The request at P&Z was for the gated community and amenities for Lot 2X, which was dropped. So the request now is only for the gated portion, for the gated community. So currently the project is under construction with the utilities for Phase 1 and Phase 2 complete. The streets for the subdivision have already been constructed to meet city standards. If approved, the streets will be platted as a common area lot and will have access and utility easement for the city to maintain its utilities. The roadway paving for Phase 1 is also complete. They are working on installing sidewalks and finishing up the Phase 2 roadway paving. The bridge is up, and paving of the roadway on the bridge is part of the Phase 2 paving schedule. Some of the remaining items include installing street signs, street lights, and gabions, as well as submitting the LOMR to FEMA and to perform site cleanup. The existing PD conditions will remain, and a few new ones are being requested. The first main change by this request is to convert the existing approved development into a gated community with private streets that the HOA would be required to maintain. This would also include the maintenance of the bridge connecting Phase 1 to Phase 2. So a private gated community would entail having gates at all of the entrances off of Sandy Lake Road, the main entry exit, and the secondary emergency exit by Lot 2X to the right. The subdivision would be accessible to the residents, their guests, as well as emergency services. This would not be a manned entrance, but a keypad entrance. There is also a turnaround proposed for those instances where someone either can't get in or turned into the street by mistake. So the main gates into and out of the subdivision are off the main road there. And these are the proposed gates. And then we have pedestrian gates on the east and west side of the main road. And then we have, and there's an example of what those will look like. And then the emergency access gate for the fire department over by Lot 2X. The main gates into the community will be motorized swing gates fitted with Opticom and Knox locks, which will allow for emergency service access to the subdivision. The emergency access gates to the east of Lot 2X will also have a swing gate with emergency access hardware on it. And then here's just another look at the main swing gates for entry and exit. And then the bottom is their proposed monument sign for the subdivision, or the entry feature. And here's just the tree planting that they're proposing along the front. Now, we did send out notices within 200 feet, as well as additional courtesy notices within 800 feet. We did receive one response within the 200 feet, you can see in the red, and that is the property directly adjacent to this proposed subdivision, directly adjacent to Lot 2X. So they've lived there for about 10 years, and they're not in favor of the proposed changes that were proposed with Lot 2X, which was dropped, which was the amenity package. But they did not have opposition to the gated portion of the request. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the request for a gated community subject to the following PD conditions. One, that all of the previously approved PD conditions remain in place. Two, to allow for a gated community with private streets that must be maintained by the HOA. This would include maintenance of the bridge, sidewalks, and street signs. The CCRs must be updated to address the changes in the maintenance of the streets, bridge, wall maintenance, entry feature maintenance. And number 4, the plats must be vacated. New plats must be filed that show the streets as private and part of a common area to be maintained by the HOA. And 5, to approve the entry feature and sign. And that is the end of my presentation. I believe the applicant is here as well, if you have questions.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Hill.
So when they go to make the assessment for the HOA, that money goes into an account. Is there a special designated account just for the streets?
I will let them answer that question.
Okay.
Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. So I know that part of the concern from the neighbors was the pickleball courts and the noise that they would cause. And you've indicated that the amenity center has been withdrawn.
Right.
I thought it was only the pickleball courts were going to be withdrawn, but they were still going to put in the pool and that sort of thing.
No, the whole amenity package was taken off the table.
Do you know their intentions with respect to what would become of that?
So it reverts back to what was originally approved, which is the farmhouse with the gardens. Unless they come back, they would have to come back and propose something different.
But they have no present intention of like recombobulating it to come back with a pool and a pool house?
That's something
and-
we can ask them.
Okay.
I think your question is better aligned to.
Sure,
the
sure. I
applicant.
just didn't know if she knew or not. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Not that I know. Our last discussion was that if they wanted to do anything, they would have to come back through the process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthew. I'm sorry. Councilmember Matthew.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I have two questions. I'm not sure if it's for you or Bob, but I'll ask it. This is about the condition number 2. I live in an HOA, and when I bought the house, I never read 100 pages of HOA rules. I'm sure the residents who's coming in 20 years from today realizes they have to re-asphalt or take care of the streets, maintenance of the bridge, and they're saying, we don't want this private street, we want to give back to the city. Do we have any process accepting private street back to the city, or have we ever done that?
So we only have one other gated community in town. To my knowledge, because I did check with police and fire and public works, whenever we receive a call in terms of, hey, we have this issue with the street, we refer them to their HOA saying, you know, this is a gated community and those streets are private. You need to contact your HOA.
Okay, thank you. I have one more what-if scenario. I hope this would never happen again. If the bridge collapses, and there are people living on the other side of the bridge, the fire trucks, ambulance needs to get there. How do we hold accountable for the HOA to construct the bridge as soon as possible? Do we have any?
The bridge is already there.
I know, I understand, but in the event something happens, the bridge collapses, and the fire truck, ambulance needs to get to the other side of the bridge where people are living, what accountability do we have with the HOA to construct the bridge back? How soon or how quickly they can rebuild?
I'm not sure if I'm equipped to answer that,
Or maybe
that
Bob?
question.
There is no mechanism that we can require them to build it back any sooner. So if it may be an issue about whether they can reoccupy those homes, if the bridge got washed out for some reason, then they couldn't get in and out using the street. So they'd have to have some of the temporary way to get out. And you might want to address that with the applicant when he gets there.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem John.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for to be educated, you said the only other, we have one more gated community.
Yes, sir.
On these, if fire truck, something happens, do they have automatic access?
Yes, sir.
Is it programmed that way?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
So they have the Opticom system, they have Knox locks, they have ways to get in.
Okay, and that's a condition for
Yes,
them to
sir.
be?
And that's why we have, there's the entrance and the exit gates, and then there's an emergency access by Lot 2X as well.
Okay,
So
thank
there's
you.
multiple access.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification on sort of logistics on how this works, where the infrastructure, the streets and everything get turned over to the developer, correct? So I guess when does that occur? And once it occurs, there's no, like the gates came down, the properties, they don't come back to us because it's been replatted and everything to be common area for the HOA. Am I clear on how that
Right, whether the
works?
gates are there or not.
Right.
So if you were to approve this, and then we have to go through the other process of vacating the plats, replatting it, creating common areas that, in the language saying that, they're responsible for all the common areas. Just because they take the gates down doesn't negate the rest of it.
It still remains private property owned by the
Yes, sir.
HOA at that point, right? And so it continues forever and ever to be HOA, right?
The one exception to
Mhm.
that is we would get water and sewer.
Okay.
We get subsurface rights when we do the replatting.
Okay.
Dedicate the water and sewer line.
And so
Right, so we maintain the water and sewer like we do everywhere else.
so our crews would still have access for,
Right, so we'll have
For that.
easements for that.
but that would be the only infrastructure that the city would continue to be responsible for, is that right? Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. So to follow up with that, so if this does not pass,
Yes.
if that were to happen, then everything would remain city
Yes.
maintained and owned, not
The streets.
HOA. Okay, the
Yeah.
streets, everything. Okay, that's what I want. Perfect, thank you.
Councilmember Hill.
And we're also responsible for the storm. Is that correct? So there's stormwater?
Yeah, stormwater drainage, yes.
Okay.
Our engineer is telling me yes.
All right, council, any other questions for Ms. Boswell? Does the applicant have anything to comment on this evening?
Hello, council. My name is Terry Holmes, and I reside here at 510 Country Lane in Coppell, and our office is here also. Thanks for hearing this and allowing us to bring this to you again. Many people would ask, like, why would you ask for this? And I actually brought the one with River Chase to the council at that time, and they had it approved. I was not the developer, but I was simply a builder, and asked the developer if this would be possible. He consented, and so we were fortunate enough to get that through. We have never asked for another one, and I never felt the need to have another one, except this was a situation where my son, who runs the marketing stuff, people would keep asking them, and there was just this feeling that this is just on the outskirts enough, and it does not have a collector street. It goes strictly to a major county road and thoroughfare, and so different than everywhere else we've really built, whether it's we're feeding onto Bethel School Road or something like that. So it does not have, it's missing that extra road, almost as a collector street, and so there's this uneasy feeling of it almost being vulnerable. We got obviously the Bush Highway right down there, and then we have 35 fairly close, which easy in, easy out. We were so we have had a lot of, more than anywhere by far, of dumpings and things like that. I've reported some of them to the police. We actually had one that they left where the shingles came from, the distributor. And so we were fortunate enough to actually get them to come pick it up. But all the other ones, I just pick up. And when I was out of town last week, came back, and on Sunday, drove it, and sure enough, 2 more piles.
and it just happens all the time. Granted, when we have a subdivision, we would not be having that. I mean, when it was fully built out, but you would have, like I just had someone was told yesterday about it, their rear lights of their pickup truck were stolen, like super quick. I guess that's a hot item for a Ford pickup F-150. You have things like that. You may have your Tahoe tires stolen, where that used to be a big thing, where you got this quick in and out, and we're out of the city like in a minute. You know, it's not like the core where we've built Red Hawk and many others, but and then so also many of our prospects are wanting that, because there may be people that want a lock and leave kind of concept, or they want maybe just maybe a higher end home and they think that goes with it. I realize that's kind of perception, but all the cities around us do allow that. There's basically 8 of them, and that's Las Colinas, Louisville, Frisco, Plano, Dallas, Southlake, Colleyville, and Westlake. And we have 3 in Southlake and 1 in that is not in yet, but it's being it's going forward, is in Frisco. And so we have lost so many people to more of an upgraded home to these cities that we've built a home for, and they just go build elsewhere. And so this may be a way to retain them, and also raise, I think, the values of the home. I think it'll attract a buyer that just wants that for whatever reason, and we may lose them to another city. Also, yeah, I think that's the main thing. As far as what will we do with Lot 2X and that whole question, we pulled that from there because I did not do an adequate job in working with the neighbors to make something that they were the closest neighbors, who was on something that was acceptable. So they're great people. We work great together. So I just thought we need to pull that. And my goal on that, whenever we do come back with something, and I absolutely will, well, I think I will, is my goal is to make sure that something that is useful. When I had originally thought, and this was, we started this back in like 99, okay, but back then I was thinking that the gardens would be a really cool thing, and the whole farm thing would be really cool. But in talking to Amanda Vanderhooser, who started the gardens here, she, my wife knows her from working at the market. She's kind of strongly didn't recommend it. She thought it's going to be really hard. It's going to be hard to get participation and all this. And I was really kind of taken back by it. And then as I've thought more about it, I thought, no, that will be hard to get people to come out and work. It'll probably be a big challenge. And so our goal is to get something that's useful. It's quite a bit of land, and it needs to be useful and purposeful. So the whole goal in doing this is to make it better. And so whatever we do in Lot 2X, hopefully, the neighbors will need to obviously bless it, and it'll be something that embetters it. And that's the same thing with gating it. Our goal is to embetter it. So as far as what's the cost to the people, and can they afford it to maintain the roads? It sounds like it'd be really expensive and all that good stuff. So with the 64 people, we assume that we would be having approximately a $1,500 or $1,500 more per year for the HOA dues. That equals $96,000 a year, times by 30 years is $2.8 million, times by 50 years is $4.8 million. That's at today's dollars. Our cost of the roads is $1.2 million. The cost of the bridge is $1.1 million. And the city has those numbers because we pay inspection fees on them. And so that's in today's dollars, and if we take those dollars and we increase them as we have inflation, we think that it would keep up with it, and so there will be a nice nest egg whenever that does need maintenance and/or replacement. Where I live in 510 Country Lane, it is 30 years old, and there's been almost like no maintenance on Country Lane, almost none. One little drive cut out in front of the driveway is the only one that I know of. And staff has said, if you take care of them and route them out, seal them, that they may even last longer than, the 50 years kind of thing. But, so we think economically it works, and in talking to my son and the prospects that are looking, would they pay an additional $1,500? And the answer is, oh yeah, I mean, that's like for sure. That's not a difficult question. And in most places, like in South Lake, where we have a few, the cost per month or per year is substantially more. What works here is we have 64 paying people and not 6 or 8 like we have in one, where the cost is like $10,000 a year-ish because of maintaining just a simple gate and stuff. So that's we have 3 conditions we'd like to ask for that. You want to give this number? So there's 3 things we'd like to ask for, and these are just little, we think are little things, but one is that we would like to have a place to have storage materials, and so I'd like to ask it now so that it's a part of it versus, some cities allow that and some don't, so I don't want to assume. But where we have a place to have building materials stored, because you often have leftovers, and something that we can have fenced off, and that we have the ability to move it around at our desire. And number 2, that we would have the option to maybe have upgraded street signs or different kinds of street signs. We didn't really think about it, except when we were meeting with staff about this. One of the staff members had said, well, the street signs don't have to be what the cities are. And it made me think of a place out in Flower Mound that we've developed where we had a limestone monument kind of ones that looked really cool, and I saw them about 2 months ago, that they still look really neat. And so something different, maybe to add some character to it. And the third thing would be, our request is that we would be able to get building permits for the homes, and maybe this goes without saying, but I wanted to ask it before the walls are complete or before the gates are complete, because that right now we have where we can start homes but not get a CO before the landscaping is complete. And I just think that all of this will go together with that, and we'd like to start homes just as soon as possible. But with those 3 conditions, we would ask for council's approval, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Council, do you have any questions?
I have a question for the city attorney. Since this was not included in the notice to the public, can we even consider this?
You have traditionally allowed you to add conditions, but it sounds like you've got some misgivings about that because it hadn't been vetted through P&Z, but it's not required because the use hasn't changed.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Holmes, I just had a few questions for you, if you don't mind. So, as I understand it, today, there's no plans for the pickleball courts on Lot X?
Correct.
Okay. I want to commend you for listening to the neighbors. I think that's admirable, the fact that you took what they said into account and you withdrew that. I think many of us were getting information about the decibel level of a pickleball court. I had no idea, but apparently it was of great concern to several people. And I think the fact that you heard that and acted on it, I think that's commendable, and I thank you for that. A couple of questions about the additional 3 conditions. What would be the reason that you would want the material storage lot to remain subsequent to build-out of the development?
Oh, not before the build-out, just before, no, while we're building. We had one at Red Hawk, and it was the second to last lot that we built on, and we put a fence around it, and it wasn't a nuisance to anyone except really the people living right next to it was, and they were very kind and gracious. But you often have, you buy stone by the tons and you have pallets left over, and we just hate to waste that stuff. And it's almost like you need a place. You have a compound, if you will, if you build an apartment or if you build a commercial building. It's like we need that to do a good job, I feel.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask it because, I wanted to ask it to make sure it was approved versus, no, you got to go back to council and ask for approval.
No, I misunderstood. Okay, I just
Yeah,
completely
we may not
misunderstood what you're
have
saying.
asked that correctly.
I thought material storage lot would possibly move during build-out of, I just took that to mean that you might leave it there. But you're just saying you just want to move it around if necessary to accommodate
Someone wants to buy that lot, we may
build-out.
move it and I guess trust us that we'll move it in a place that, we keep peace with everybody and that it's in the right place from a marketing standpoint of the community also.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then on number 3, the building permits for the houses may be issued before completion of front screen walls and entry gates. So, and that would be similar, you're saying, to the landscaping and completion of Lot 2X per the existing PD. Just give us a little bit more flesh and bones on that one, if you could, please.
Yeah, you saw a picture of the limestone wall that we're building. We just finished we'll continue building. That was the one on the, as you go in our property on the east. The one on the west, we will have that done as quickly as possible. It's super important from a marketing standpoint. But the gates and getting all that worked out, will that be done? And it's like, no, I've been waiting on the cast stone monuments. Those, I think, are going to be really cool things. We ordered them in like March of this year, and it's like, and today they told me at a minimum 3 weeks, and it's like, it just keeps going on, and it's like I would rather not build those until we have our gates and do it all at once. I just think we'll have a better job then, which means the landscaping won't be done there, but. I just think that's the right order of procedure to get the highest quality. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That's all I had.
Council, any other questions? Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Has staff seen these requirements? So this is the first time to see them? Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Hill.
I do have a question for Terry. And this is just something that, just because I'm in the business, when I looked at your design for your fence, does it comply with ASTM F2200 for the spacing of the pickets? You might look at that before you have it shipped to your place.
On which fence are you saying?
The automatic gates.
Oh, yeah, I need to probably tweak those. I mean, the landscape architect came up with them, but.
Yeah, and most of the time they miss that.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, just
yeah.
ASTM F2200.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions for Mr. Holmes or ourselves? We had no one signed up to speak. Oh, Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you. Just quickly on number 2, so this is talking about actually the street signs within the community itself, right? So,
yes.
So it would be the streets that are owned by the HOA anyway. Is that correct?
And it's they have maybe a cool monument. We don't have mailboxes anymore, so the idea of having, it's real important to me for streetscape and all that. So we don't have mailbox, which is great. We've been doing cluster mailbox. Of course, Coppell was one of the pioneers on that, really, and as they were a rural community. And we've taken that to other communities even before now. It is actually a standard with the U.S. Post Office. But now that those are gone, having something, a marquee at the corner, it can look pretty nice, It's pretty stately looking. Yeah.
Okay, but it's on the HOA property. It's
yes.
Not, okay.
Yep.
And one question, this is more of a clarification or logistics question for me. So the streets will be owned by the HOA. Are there requirements like for safety, to be identified in a certain, is that still hold that they have to be identifiable for fire trucks, or, I mean, are those standards still valid?
It's gonna have to sign off on it, so we get a fire truck there, so it'll have to
Okay, so they'll still be up to safety spec or however, whatever you want to.
Yes.
They're being built to city standards.
Okay.
They're basically fire lanes.
And
Private property.
the streets, the infrastructure, some, if not all of it, is already there. Is that right? Has already been put in?
It's all poured.
Okay, so it's already in, and that, just, once again, clarification or logistics, does the city get reimbursed for any of that, or is that just, is the
We don't pay for it.
developer paid for all of it anyway? Okay, and then we're gonna turn the keys over, and so their future maintenance will be all, okay, just clarifying that. Thanks.
Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Terry, I have a question for you. You mentioned $1,500 in addition to the HOA fee, right? This
Correct.
is separate just for the maintenance of the roads and the bridges.
Yes.
And do you have any estimate how long will for you to finish this 63 houses? 5 years, 10 years?
It's always longer than I think, number one. Red Hawk was 10 years,
10 years.
so probably 10 years.
So,
And that's okay. For us, that's okay. We're more farmer thinking than, hey, production, knock it out, get it done. It's more, I would much rather have an artistic community than a quick community.
okay, thank you.
Councilmember Neples. Oh, I thought you were.
That was me. That was my thinking.
All right, we had no one signed up to speak for the public hearing, so council is back to us. Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually from Councilmember Hill. Would what you mentioned on the gate be something that you would add as a condition, or are you comfortable with just the communication you had with the applicant?
Well, it's going to have to go through and be permitted, and at that point, it would probably be noted, but he said he's ordered them and he's waiting for them.
Okay,
I
cool.
just thought-
Thank you.
Mr. Hager.
I want to make it clear, because the question you ask is, if he doesn't sell the lots, then the $1,500 isn't going to be paid. Is that what you're asking? Once he puts we would write these HOA is whoever owns the lots, once the assessment's done, has to pay it, whether it's Mr. Holmes or somebody he sells a house to. So those assessments need to be made. And the HOA document should reflect that. So once you subdivide the property and he sells off a lot, then these HOA requirements are going to be placed on the property. And when they do, I'll make sure that in the agreement, there's an assessment beginning once the plat's done, because otherwise it'll be underfunded. That was, I think, Mr. Hill's concern. Is that y'all's concern? And is that what you want? Because you've got to make sure there's funds in there to pay for it, because they'll come and see you when there's not. So,
Any comments?
well, you can comment all you want and when it's your turn, but right now, my job is to protect them. So they need to know that. And you can say whatever you need to say that supports your position, but I want to make sure you understand that as your lawyer, I think that there needs to be enough funds in there to make sure that the roads are taken care of appropriately, because they will come and see you when they're not.
Yeah, thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification.
Council? Councilmember Carroll.
So just to clarify, and this is maybe getting way too much in the weeds, but you said like making sure there's enough in the fund. I mean, how is it determined what that fund needs to be?
He represented to you that the fund would be at $1,500 over and above the regular assessment. So that would be somewhere north, seems to be around, most homeowners of that quality are anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a year. And then extra $1,500 a year that he's asking be donated per lot to build up a reserve fund to pay for road improvements and the bridge improvement. Because generally, I'm not sitting in here, but he can tell you generally roads are 20 to 30 years max. Now, this one probably won't get as much traffic as a normal road in the street because it's restricted. But usually, good city managers plan on every 20 years to replace the street. And I know we do that here, so, or try to. So
We stretch that further.
that you want to make sure that there's adequate funds that in 30 years, 20 years, 30 years, that there's funds to replace the street.
And that's common,
You don't see many private developments, gated
Okay.
communities. There are some.
Okay.
And they're usually very high end.
I'm, certainly listening to all proper legal advice. I guess I'm balancing between it. We are turning, it's for all intents and purposes, private property.
Yeah.
So it's sort of their property. So like how much we have to dictate how big the fund needs to be. I guess I want to make sure that's normal for this type of development.
From a standpoint, this is a very large one, in my opinion. 64 lots is a lot. Because when Page was, I'll show my age, when Page was developed, it was offered as a gated community, and the council turned that down. But this is a pretty large lot, group of homes. You generally see this a lot smaller, more exclusive, but 64 is a lot. So you can spread that cost out, so.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Mr. Holmes? Keep it brief, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So how, what I thought we would do is we are the declarant until we turn it over to the HOA. And I'll tell you that like we could verify this, but in Red Hawk, our dues are around $1,700. We mow the front yards. We include the security as part of it because I bought it as a package because it's less expensive, and we managed it ourselves. We have, I think it was around $120,000 when we turned it over to the HOA this last year. Mike Biedenheimer is one of the president, and he was an attorney that is somewhat retired, but they're running it, and I help guide them. They're self-managing it. But if it's managed well and conservatively and closely and not by a third party, I believe you get a much, much, much better job, and it's much tighter ran. And we just save money, and we would just save money all the time. We've never raised. I don't want to say that. I think we only raised the dues once, and we did a special assessment for. I forget what it was. It was something little, but it was a special assessment. But when someone comes in, and a city's got to approve our HOA docs, but when someone buys it from the declarant or developer, then they have to pay an initiation fee. Maybe we call it something slightly different, but it would probably be around $3,000. That's what fuels it. So you get that $3,000. We also, if you looked at the old PD, we have to put in $300,000 to maintain the erosion of the creek. I could bore you to death on what we're doing to mitigate the erosion of the creek, but if you drove out there and if I showed it to you, you'd go, wow, that's pretty cool. And we got a 404 permit, and it's all being done really cool. But I hope there's no erosion that would be done. We'll be putting a lot of trees, specifically bald cypress, root structure and all that, would be really cool and help mitigate erosion. So we have this $300,000 that we're going to be parking in there that comes with every closing. And then we also will be funding it by the initiation of the HOA, forgot the name, but we'll have plenty of money. Totally respect what Bob's saying, but I believe we'll have plenty of money when I say 10 years. Yeah, that was the last lot. But we've had, well, it speaks for itself. I could get you real numbers on it, but yeah, and so the declarant, my point is the declarant doesn't pay as much because we're fueling it. We're paying any shortfall. In Red Hawk, in the documents, it says that we can come back and request that money, those shortfalls, and as a loan, it rolls into a loan. We have the right to do it, but we did not exercise that right, so we forgave HOA that debt. Yeah, now you know all that I know when it comes to all that stuff. But if you managed it well, there will not be a problem, I don't believe. So.
Councilmember Carroll.
Well, I'll go ahead and move to a motion.
Please do.
Have we exhausted everything else? So I will move to approve item number 13. I move to close the public hearing and approve item number 13 with the conditions as listed, along with these additional conditions that have been given to the city secretary. 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you. I have a motion.
My only concern about this moving spoils location is where's that going to be? One lot? How's it? Who
I
gets
have a
to make
motion
it?
pending.
I
Give
know
me
you
just a
do.
second.
Okay.
Mr. Walker, was that a second? Okay, now I'll ask for any discussion. Mr. Hager.
I need some clarification about the construction yard. When does it go away, and where is it going to be? There's no clarification. It's hard to write that ordinance to know where that site needs to be or who gets to choose where it is. Does Mr. Holmes get to just choose whatever lot he wants to? And, I know what he says, but he could sell this tomorrow, and then who am I dealing with? So we need to get that kind of pinned down for clarification on where that construction yard's going to be, and at what point does it go away? Is it the last lot, or when there's 64 lots, so if he gets to 56, does he really need to have a construction lot at that point? So I think that it would behoove us to get some clarification for that so that we can put it in the ordinance. Thank you.
Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Mr. Hager, I have a question for you, sir. As Mayor asked me to direct this through you.
Yes.
So if we proposed maybe potentially we outline the material storage area in future phase 2, like if we could define that somewhere in one of those lots, that would be helpful for so that way it's on the site. The bridge is complete, if I understand correctly. Is the roadway complete past the bridge? So everything in phase 2, roadway is complete? So if we proposed maybe somewhere in phase 2, would you like a specific lot in phase 2?
Or a group of lots, maybe, just so I know which one.
Maybe a bundle?
You might ask Mr. Holmes if he's got some lots in phase 2 that he could designate, and it can be on one of those 3 lots, and he can move it if he wants to. I just don't want it to be, we don't know where it needs to be. And then if he puts it somewhere where the neighbors complain, if they complain to him and he doesn't want to move it, they're going to call you, so. Just what happens. So I would ask that you defer that specific question if there's some lots in phase 2 that he could group together and designate those for us. Not have a debate, but designate those lots.
Thanks, Mr. Hager. Go ahead and ask him. All right. Mr. Holmes, do you have any suggestions in that phase 2 area? Any thought?
That would certainly be an option. I think one of the lots on the west side of the community I'm forgetting the block, but would certainly be an option. I think the key to me is that we have a 6 and we want to say make it an 8-foot fence. That's fine where it has protection from everybody, you know, and I think that's the biggest problem. They will call me probably before they call you, and if I stonewall them or something like that, then you guys won't, but staff will get the call. And the only problems that you'll really have is if we let weeds grow or if there's rats. That's it. That's what I've seen from history, and it's like. But I love saving, recycling, reusing, and if I can.
If I could just,
Yeah.
so on specifically, do you have any lots in phase 2 that you would recommend?
Lots 1 or 8. Is there 8 or 9 there? I forget.
Oh.
9.
So lot 1 or
9?
maybe lot 1 and lot 9? So, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you for that clarification, sir, I appreciate it.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want a clarification. The motion, was that made with the,
Yes.
with
Yes.
these?
The motion was made as presented to the city secretary, which is what is printed in front of you.
Okay, I just don't feel comfortable adding these on when it hasn't even been presented to the P&Z, and for the first time, the staff is seeing this, so I think that, I don't know why it came up now, but I think it should go back to P&Z.
Thank you for your comment. There's Councilmember Hill.
I just wanted to ask, did Councilman Nevels, did he amend?
I did not, it
With
was
one-
more clarification, just to kind of understand. I just wanted to make sure I understood and listened to the discussion before potentially made an amendment.
Councilmember Matthews.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Maybe it's for Bob. If these 3 conditions that we have right in front of us, the staff did not see, council is entertaining this for the first time, public did not see. If the motion fails here today, they have to go back to PNC to get approved, or they can come back?
If it fails today, they'll have to file a new application for the request.
To add this condition?
To add those conditions and make the roads private. You'd have to start over with that change in zoning again.
Okay.
And you don't have any mechanism in your zoning ordinance to send anything back to P&Z without, we'd have to renotice a hearing. My recommendation is if the council wants to send it back to P&Z, we're basically going to start over again because I've got to notify the public, in my opinion. Because we don't have anything in the ordinance to send it back to P&Z. So you've got to renotice. So it's in effect starting over.
Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Can I just
Bob.
add it with the replat with the vacate and the plat? I mean, I'm not trying to hide from the city. It's just if it can be added in there, that would be fine.
Add what?
Can these conditions be added into the, because I got to run it through for the vacate?
I haven't seen them. I don't know what they are. Do you have a
Where's that
copy?
staff?
It's not a plat issue, it's a zoning issue.
But I actually had a question for you too. Okay, so you'll see those. So if the, so another option to make the motion with these conditions only that have been approved by P&Z, and then the applicant would have to go and do this separate, right?
That is yet another option.
Rather than have to go do all of it?
He could come in to amend the PD to include these 3 things, is your
Gotcha.
point, yes.
Okay. And then, assuming these 3 stay on the motion for whoever's made the motion, then that's fine too. But I also wanted some clarification on number 1. Terry, I think so we've got lot 1 and/or 9, but then once that's all built out, then there's no storage that will exist with materials. Is that correct? You're not looking to keep
No,
storage of
I-
material somewhere?
I feel like Otherwise, what you have are piles that are visible. You know, I just think, I'm not saying it's been overthought, but I think if you guys were living in there, I think you would want something that's contained. I think it's a by far a good thing. You have washout for concrete.
They're not asking during construction. What
No,
she wants
after
to know
construction
if-
is done.
If on lot 1 and 9, you have a construction yard, are you gonna convert that, if you sell all 63 lots and you've got just one lot left?
Yep.
Are you then going to keep that lot with building materials, or are you gonna take those materials out and put a house on it?
Oh, no.
Yep,
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
it's too valuable. No.
Okay, well, that's why I wanted to know, like, you're not
Yeah.
looking to keep one lot
Oh,
to remain with materials
I
on it.
thought you were asking if we had a buyer that wanted to buy that lot,
Right,
then where would we move it to, or can we not have one? I just think if someone wanted to buy that lot, I almost need to sell it, right? I'm in business, but I need a place, I think for the city, for everyone, is a place that is contained. I'm not trying to sneak something through. I just thought I'd bring it through now to talk about it so that I didn't have to redo this again.
No, agreed.
That was the only point of it. We have to take care of our customers, and this is a way of taking care of our customers, which is our community. Number one, I care about the city, but the way I make sure the city's not, people aren't calling the city, is I take care of the customers, so.
right. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I heard your name first, so Councilmember Nevels.
Mr. Holmes, I just had a question for you. So do you have any on this number 2, on these additional conditions, do you have any drawings or renderings of these masonry monument street signs or decorative steel street signs? Typically we get presented some sort of design or elevation of things that would look like. Do you have anything in mind that you could present to us? Because my thing is, I just want to make sure I feel comfortable with what is being presented, so.
Yeah. I think I took a picture of the one in the landing in Flower Mound that I think I took a picture, like I said, a couple months ago I saw. I think I took a picture of that. I could show you guys or email you guys or something. But it would, that's why I put at staff approval. I'm not trying to get away with anything, but I'm thinking if we make something
yeah, and I hear what I know you're saying you're not trying to get away with anything. Just normally it's customary that we are presented with a design, so we make sure we're comfortable approving the design. So
you're right. Yeah, and I didn't. I didn't.
We really need to quit negotiating here tonight.
No, and this is kind of my point, is just trying to understand what is being presented to us in this additional, in this request. So just because it was, just my thought, just as far as the council goes, it's just, I want to make sure that our staff has had adequate time to review the request and make sure that we are operating with all the information that we need necessary to make a sound decision. So that's my point.
Yeah, no, it was in a meeting with Mike Garza and engineering.
Mark?
So, looking through these items, which Terry has proposed to add on to the conditions of the PD, I don't see anything unreasonable in here. I think number one is actually a benefit to the homeowners while that whole development is being built out. And I think it'll keep an eyesore from being there, big mound of rubble or some type of building materials. Number two, we're allowing staff approval for that, so I don't think there's anything unreasonable there. And the building permits being issued is reasonable, especially since we're doing similar thing for the landscaping. But I do want to say to Mr. Holmes, when you come back with any amenities, I can guarantee you I will vote against this and send you back to P&Z if I've got these things that are just given to us last minute. So that it's just a courtesy to the staff and to P&Z as well. So I just ask that you not do that.
So to that point, I think Councilmember Carroll is going to come up with a rectification for this. Items number 1 and 2 are actually administrative that can be handled. Number 3 is a zoning case, so it does need to go back before. So,
well, let me
Councilmember Carroll.
When I looked at these, I assumed they could be handled administratively, and which is why I went ahead and added them to the condition. Is that a fair assessment that these can, that these are not zoning, these are not?
We don't know what the sign is, so I don't know what to approve, or if you don't care, then yes, you could give that an administrative approval. But if we approve something you don't like, now what?
Well,
So I want to see, as your lawyer, I would like to see a picture, because I include the picture with the ordinance, so I know what I'm getting.
Well,
So
okay.
you know what you're getting.
So that's fair. I'm probably conflicted a little bit on that because that will be HOA property, that will not be city property, but nevertheless.
It's still in Coppell, and it's still a zoning
It is,
regulation.
and so.
No. So
Just a minute.
we
Okay,
have a,
so-
we have a motion and a second before the council.
Right, so.
There's enough discussion. I might suggest that we defer this until to the second meeting in October, which would be the 24th of this month.
Defer the whole case?
Yes.
Well, that'll give Bob a chance to do what he needs to do, and Terry to answer the questions that y'all want to have answered so that we can move this thing forward, if that's what y'all choose to do. Because the Blackberry Farms PD has the condition that Terry is trying to remove that has the building permit requirement. So to your question, no,
Right.
that's what I'm told by the staff, Terry. The building permit, is that right, Matt?
Yeah, I believe the building permit's tied to landscaping.
For the HOA
Right.
condition, yeah.
So we have to, so we gotta, Terry brought this to us this evening. We have not had a chance to take a look at it. Y'all are having this discussion. There's enough questions, and Bob is bringing up enough issues that you can't settle this tonight.
So to that end, is it better to amend removing these 3 new conditions and just go with what's approved, or defer and let you take care of everything
I would
at
rather have
once?
us be able to have a chance from a staff perspective, working with Bob, to get the questions answered and bring it to you so that you have a concrete answer to your questions, and whether or not you approve it or not, that's still up to you. But at least you'll have the clarity about what it is that you're approving.
Okay, I just didn't want it to get bogged down on just these 3 items.
I didn't bring them up.
Oh, I know, I'm not saying.
And so
No bombs being thrown here,
from
Bob.
the standpoint, we want to make sure that what we bring to you is what you think you're hearing and what you're voting on. So, and I think that we don't know what the sign looks like. I mean, he's got something on his phone, but I haven't seen it. She hasn't seen it. Matt hasn't seen it. We don't know what lots. We can what if we have a disagreement with Terry? Then he thinks so.
But is it still better to approve what has been proposed by staff?
No,
and then
because
come
once you
back
do
and
that,
modify it later?
the case is over, then he's got to file a new application. So I'm trying to be fair to him and
So just
you.
defer it till, okay.
And it's better to defer it until the next meeting than piecemeal it, which
Do I
is
need
what.
do I need to remove well, I have to undo whoever did number 2. Did you do number 2? Who was number 2?
Jim, I think, was the second.
Mr. Walker
Do I have
was.
to unwind, get the motion off the table?
Yes, that's correct. I believe the recommended process would be to.
Take back your 2.
Withdraw my second.
Yes.
Withdraw his second.
I would prefer that phrase.
Yes.
And I had a comment too, could I,
Let's.
as part of that? Okay, okay.
I'll get to you.
I'll withdraw my second.
And then Don.
I withdraw my motion.
All right. Mr. Walker or Councilmember Walker has a comment. we will postpone, the correct motion will be to postpone this until the second meeting in October, on October 24th. So Councilmember Walker, did you have a comment?
Sure, I'll go ahead and I'll move that we close this now and, no, wait.
No, postpone
Postpone until our next regular meeting.
and date?
On October 24th.
Thank you.
And now can I say a few things?
No, I need a second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Have a second from Councilmember Nevels, and now Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I do appreciate that anytime you bring something at the 11th hour, you know, it's going to get nitpicked, and people are going to be concerned about the way it's written and things like that. Even Brianna and I were confused about the wording on one item, and so I think at the end of the day that everyone benefits, staff, city attorney, the council, our mayor. I think we all benefit from a little bit more clarity and a little bit better understanding. Having said that, I also think that pretty much any building site with 20, 30, 40 homes is going to have material storage. And, you know, it's not going to be uncommon to have material storage throughout the building process. And so the idea that this particular builder wants to put a 6 to 8 foot stained cedar wood fence around it to obscure the building materials for the benefit of the aesthetics, both for the people that are coming, having the lots marketed to them, as well as for their surrounding neighbors, I think is actually a positive. And of course, I just presumed that as soon as you had that on the last lot, if someone wanted to buy the last lot, the material storage is out of there because you're also built out. So, but I was confused about the way that was worded. And so if that had been vetted by staff first, then I think we probably would have eliminated that confusion. You know, the masonry, monument, street signs, all that sort of thing, I mean, this is a pretty high price point development. I would think that it would be marketed in a way that they're going to be nice signs. So, but I think it's appropriate to have staff at least know what we're getting into. And the building permits for the houses issued before the completion of the front screen walls, to me, that just means that we get the thing built out quicker, right, if the marketing works and succeeds, so that, you know, we've been wanting this developed for a long time, and now we're getting to the point where lots are starting to sell, people are coming in, people are expressing, you know, it'd be nice if this was gated and some other things. I'd like to see it built out. So I'm glad we're going to defer this to the next meeting. I encourage everybody to communicate and get everybody on board so that we have something solid we can vote for.
So we're going to have to vote on it before we can say we're going to do that, but Councilmember,
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Matthew had a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just, as a procedural question, are you recommending to table this item until October 24th?
That's correct.
So
Postpone.
there's no motion today to vote on,
That-
even moving to the 24th?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, so any other discussion? So we do have a motion to postpone this item until October 24th. It has been seconded. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa, Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Jones, Matthew. Opposed? Hill. The motion carries.
All right, so we will see you guys back on October 24th. All right, item number 14 is our city manager reports with project updates, future agendas, and direction from our work session. Mr. Land.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just very quickly, Moore Road, the boardwalk ribbon cutting is October 19th at 10 a.m. The duck pond sits at 60% complete. Thweep Park is at 90% complete. On South Beltline, utility installations are still going on as subgrade is being prepared for Phase 3. Woodhurst construction, the pre-construction meeting was held today. And during the course of that meeting, they found that there's going to be several material delays, and therefore construction is going to be starting after the first of the year. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Item number 15 is the mayor and council reports on recent and upcoming events. The Coppell Art Center is pleased to announce some new surprises coming to Old Town Coppell in October. On Thursday, October 12th, that's 2 days from now, beginning at 5 p.m., the Art Center will host food trucks from Hook and Ladder and Cajun on the Go, as well as music from the local DFW band Jukebox Heroes. And this is a pre-show to 4-day weekend. Food trucks will arrive at 5 p.m., and tickets for the 4-day weekend show can be purchased at the CoppellArtCenter.org. And one caveat to the opening of the boardwalk is in the event of inclement weather, the ribbon cutting will be moved to Tuesday, October 24th. So, all right, item number 16, public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. Do we have any public service announcements? Seeing none, item number 17, there was no necessary action from executive session. Therefore, there being no further business before this council, we are adjourned at 9:18 p.m.